And just like that, the Warriors snatched home court and Rockets fan souls. Let's talk about it. Think about all that work Houston did in the regular season to get the second seed, and it took one game for the Warriors to snatch that. Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler combined for 56 of the Warriors' 95 points. Steph had 16 in the first half and finished with 31. He went 12 of 19 from the field and 5 of 9 from 3. I've been hearing about the Rockets having a Steph stopper for the past 4 days. I've heard it from Rockets fans, members of the media. Dudes were convinced that Amen Thompson was a Steph Curry stopper. A Steph Curry stopper. That's crazy, bro. This young bull never sniffed the playoffs, and y'all got him penciled in as a Steph stopper in a playoff series? Are you kidding me? I've been having a little bit of a back and forth with Rockets fans, and the biggest takeaway from those conversations is that these dudes put a lot of stock in the last game the Warriors played against Houston. The game where Steph scored 3 points. These Rockets fans kept referencing that game and talking about how Amen Thompson locked up Steph. Man, get out of here. Ain't nobody locked up Steph. See, what actually happened that game was that the Rockets were fortunate enough to catch the Warriors at the end of a brutal stretch. It was the stretch run of the regular season, and the Warriors were exhausted trying to play catch up in the standings. But as we can see this game, Houston has no answers for the chef. Amen and whoever else was unfortunate enough to get switched on to Steph got absolutely destroyed. Steph was so comfortable, he was just casually bombing 30-footers. And he also had that insane step back 3 from the right wing.
Brought it all, the youth, the physicality, the rebounding, this home court energy. How'd you guys overcome it? What was the biggest test here?
Woo, we're still young. I mean, I think Steph is 37, I'm 35, Dre is like 35. But we got some young guns that also get it done as well. Stayed in it, gave up a little run, but in the end we won.
There was one 3-point shot that Stephen made. He was like floating off in motion, and we panned over to a shot of you, and you're just shaking your head. I mean, the man continues to amaze, doesn't he?
He does. Like I always say, Batman comes out of nowhere. You never see him coming, then he just falls from the sky, from a building, behind the door, and does some incredible things, man. He's going to be the reason that we do win it all. We all know that, but we got to protect him at all costs.
Congrats on the first road win. Thanks, Jimmy.
And mind you, Steph's doing all this with an injured thumb on his shooting hand. And then you got playoff Jimmy who's continuing his dominant run. Jimmy had an easy 25, 7, 6, and 5 game. Jimmy's contributing in every facet of the game. He's giving you an efficient 25 points. He's finishing inside and giving you buckets from the mid-range. He's chipping in with 7 rebounds and is getting his teammates involved for 6 assists. And then you got the 5 steals, just forcing turnovers, wreaking havoc, blowing up plays. Just an absolute masterclass from Steph and Jimmy. By the way, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I said this in my series preview, and I'll say it again. The Warriors have the 2 best players on the court in the series, easily. And when they're both playing up to par, this Warriors team is going to be extremely hard to beat because, again, the Warriors have the 2 best players in the series, and they're backed by an elite defense. And when I say elite defense, the Warriors have had the best defensive rating since the All-Star break with a 109.3. This Houston team, now having lost home court, doesn't have the talent, the star power, or the experience to overcome this early series deficit. But with that being said, let's talk a little more about the game. This Houston team is interesting because they go to a 2-big lineup. This is like some 1980s, 1990s basketball right here. So Houston goes to that big lineup in the first quarter. The Warriors counter with a 2-big lineup of their own, with Kevon Looney and Quinton Post. I don't think we've ever seen them 2 share the court together. I mean, it wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, and I can see the thinking behind it. Golden State's putting their 2 biggest players on the court to hopefully keep the Rockets off the offensive glass, while at the same time, unlike the Rockets, one of those bigs is a floor spacer. And Quinton Post just might be the 2nd best shooter on the team, by the way. It's between him and Buddy. Now, obviously, Buddy's been doing his thing for a decade, but if you ask me, who do I trust more when the ball's leaving their hands? Buddy Hield or Quinton Post? I trust Quinton Post way more. I get the theory behind it, but I don't think we should be seeing much of that lineup going forward. But anyways, Golden State went to a zone in the second quarter, and they clamped the Rockets' offense. The Warriors ended up going on an 18-3 run. They held Houston to 34 points in the first half and 85 for the game. They forced 16 Rockets turnovers. The Rockets had no chance of scoring in the half court. Their rebounding was literally their lifeline offensively.
All week we heard you guys talk about the keys, which were limiting turnovers to keep them in the half court and doing what you can to prevent them from getting offensive rebounds.
Listen, they're going to get some offensive rebounds. This is not a team we're probably going to hold to 7 offensive rebounds for a game. It's hard to do. But in saying that, I thought there were some ones that we can get. And the ones that we can for sure get our hand on, we got to come up with those balls. So,
what? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I think, Jesus Christ, it's crazy. Oh, my God. Wow. But we'll watch the film, see where we can be better at it. But overall, it's the fight in us. And we fought to win the game, but we can clean up some of that stuff, and I think we will.
Houston won a rebound battle 52-36. Steven Adams destroyed the Warriors. He had 12 rebounds in 20 minutes, with 5 of them being offensive. He was an absolute menace, I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's what Steven Adams does. He's one of the strongest dudes in the league, and it's almost impossible to keep him off the offensive glass completely. If he's out there getting minutes, he's gonna get boards. But in regards to rebounding, there are things the Warriors can't clean up. They gave up 6 offensive rebounds to a man. That can't happen.
How do you rate your guys' ability to be physical and to try to pry and lose that game?
Well, I mean, that's obviously their advantage in the series is the size and athleticism and the offensive rebounding. They had 22 of them. We can be better for sure, but they're going to get offensive rebounds in this series. They just are. So we have to keep playing. You know, the possession doesn't end until we get the ball, so we got to keep fighting. I thought there were several loose balls that we didn't grab with 2 hands with force, so we'll look at those. Similar to the Clipper game last week where, you know, the ball's bouncing around. We're trying to bounce it one time, or you know, maybe we get a rebound and we're so anxious to get in transition we throw the ball away. We can't have those. If it's a half-court game, I really think our defense can get the job done in this series.
Adams is going to get his, but a man getting 6 is unacceptable. Now, I do want to give Sengun some credit. He didn't look rattled. He played pretty good offensively. He took advantage of his scoring opportunities and even scored on Draymond. He was the only Houston player that showed up on offense, so I do tip my cap to him. But at the same time, I know for a fact Draymond's going to play him better as the series goes on. But on the flip side, Jalen Green just isn't that guy. First of all, statistically, Jalen's never been good against the Warriors. I know in their last regular season meeting, he kind of got loose, but that was literally his only good offensive game against the Warriors since he got drafted. Jalen Green's an inefficient scorer and streaky shooter. He has no craft finishing at the rim. He's just a really athletic volume scorer. Now, when his shot's on, he can light it up. But more often than not, if you got an elite defense in place, he's just not the type of player that's going to hurt you. And that's who Houston's relying on to be their number 1 option. Again, like I said in my preview, force Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun to beat you in the half court. Sengun's gonna get some buckets, and Jalen Green might hit a few tough threes, but they're just not gonna consistently score against this elite Warriors defense, especially over the course of a series. If Houston can't force turnovers and get out in transition, they're in trouble. They're not going to outscore the Warriors with just offensive rebounding. In order for them to score enough offensively, they have to continue crushing the Warriors on offensive boards and capitalizing off those. And they also got to force a lot of turnovers. But ever since acquiring Jimmy Butler, this Warriors team is pretty steady with the ball. Now, Steph did have 4 turnovers, and Draymond was a little shaky at times with the ball in his hands. But just add in Jimmy Butler, a player who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, who's a low turnover guy. Jimmy played 42 minutes, so you have that steady decision maker on the court the majority of the game. As for some game 2 adjustments, number 1, close the rebound gap. Now look, the Rockets are inevitably going to get some offensive rebounds, but the Warriors can't close that gap and make it more manageable. They can do that by doing a better job running down long rebounds. There were a lot of long rebounds that were up for grabs that the Warriors just didn't get to first. Be quicker to the ball. Next adjustment, less Looney, a little less Buddy, and more Gee. Gee didn't play much, but he was good in his minutes. Buddy wasn't great and he made some mistakes, but he was a +7 this game. Even when he's not hitting shots, his floor spacing is still needed because teams respect him. In terms of Looney, I know he's out there to match up with Adams, but I don't know, man. His lack of athleticism, especially in this series, is super glaring. We'll see what adjustments Houston makes in game 2, but this might be a series where you can look to try TJD instead, just to add a little more juice athletically to the front court. I think Kuminga can help the Warriors this series. This is the type of series tailor-made for Kuminga. Houston has athletes up and down our roster, and Kuminga's the Warriors' best athlete. I know Kuminga's in a doghouse, but at some point you're gonna need him. And I think game 2 is their best opportunity. So yeah, the Warriors take game 1, and even if they lose game 2, they already got the split going back to the Bay for the next 2 games. If they take care of home court, that puts them up 3-1 in a commanding position against a young team that's never been here before. I find it hard to believe Houston can win 3 straight games after going down 3-1. The Warriors do what they had to do. Now let's see if the Rockets have a counterpunch in them. Also want to give a shout out to Pods, who had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and was a +17 for the game. This is his first official playoff game, and he wasn't afraid of the moment. If he can consistently contribute 14 to 20 points a game as a third option, the Warriors got something here. But anyways, that's all I got for y'all. If I entertained you or you learned something new, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Also, follow your boy on Instagram. I'll hot you on the next one. Peace.